Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, and today's video will be covering a new GameStop sale and 10 great GameStop deals worth buying, so let's get into it. Now the first game on the list is Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Now this game is a 1 vs. thousands hack and slash Dynasty Warrior style game that takes place in the Zelda Breath of the Wild universe and is more of a prequel leading up to the events of the first Breath of the Wild, as you play as the different champions as they try and stop the evil Calamity Ganon. And so you'll be playing as several different champions like Link and Zelda and the other champions from the original game, plus some new additional characters that you can also unlock along the way. And each one of these characters really has their own unique play style. They'll have different abilities and skill sets, but also different weapon types they can equip. Plus, it does have several RPG elements where you can level up your characters, making them stronger. You can also find new weapons and upgrade those as well along the way, making your characters more powerful. The game has a lot of different unlockables. There are different side quests and challenges you can take on in addition to the main storyline. And if you want to discover and unravel more of the events and storyline leading up to the Breath of the Wild, and you like this intense action combat, I would definitely recommend this game. The next game is Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. And this game is really a unique mashup of gameplay styles. It's sort of like a MMORPG meets 3D fighting game set in the Dragon Ball universe. And so you'll start off by creating your own character and playing as a new member of the Time Patrol. And so you'll partner up with the Elder Kai and Future Trunks as you go through and try and restore and protect the timeline throughout the Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super series. And so you'll dive into many of the classic events from that storyline, but instead of just replaying them word for word, like you've probably done dozens of times throughout the years in different Dragon Ball Z games, this time around you actually will dive in and help protect the timeline, so you'll be kind of a parallel universe almost, and again you'll be fighting to restore the timeline to its original version. Another thing that's really fun and addicting about this game is the customization level. As I mentioned, you'll start off by creating your own character, but you can choose from different races for your characters, so you can play as like the humans or the Namex, Saiyans, the Buu type creatures, and much more. And you'll be able to really build out and customize your character as well. So throughout the game you'll power up your stats, but on top of that you can learn from the different Dragon Ball characters, unlocking their abilities, and so you can really build out your own custom fighter and unleash moves like your Destructo Discs, your Kamehameha Waves, and much more. And so it's really fun and addicting getting to build out this character. And as I mentioned, it is more of that MMORPG type feel as well. So you can even team up with other players across the world to take on the different challenges throughout the game. If you like Dragon Ball Z, fighting games, and MMORPGs, this one's definitely a must play. The next game is the Diofield Chronicles. And so this game is a very unique strategy RPG that takes place in a war-torn country, and you'll need to play as a band of mercenaries as they navigate and fight their way through the ongoing wars between the different kingdoms in the continent. And so the story is very politically charged and feels very grandiose as your heroes will meet up and discuss in kind of round table discussions before each mission and battle. On top of that, the combat is very unique and addicting as well. And so it really combines more of a tactical strategy combat with a real-time strategy combat at the same time. And so you'll have different units that you'll control and you'll be moving them around the map. And they'll sort of auto battle and engage with enemies when they come within range. On top of that, you can navigate your characters and unleash their abilities at your control. And this can be unlocking and unleashing abilities from your characters specifically, or it could also be unleashing massive summons on the battlefield to take out enemies. There's a robust skill tree you can unlock for your characters, adding to the addictive gameplay. And so if you like strategy RPGs, I think this one's worth picking up and checking out as well. The next game is Elden Ring. So if you're not familiar with Elden Ring, it's an open world action RPG from some of the same creators of the Dark Souls series. And so it really has that same type of feel to it, where it's an action RPG, but more of an open world setting in this dark fantasy world. And you actually play as a Tarnished as you go on a mission to repair and restore the Elden Ring in hopes of becoming the next Elden Lord. Now, similar to the other entries in the Dark Souls series, the combat is extremely challenging and it can be difficult and take some getting used to. But I think one element to this game that makes it a little bit more accessible is the fact that it is that open world play style. And so if you find yourself in an area that's way too difficult and you keep getting defeated, you can backtrack to new areas, continue to level up your character as you explore, preparing yourself further for when you take on these challenges again. Again, since it is more that huge open world to explore, I think that eliminates some of the grindy feeling that sometimes happened in the past Dark Souls games where you needed to power up your characters in hopes to survive, where this time around you're simply exploring new areas and leveling up naturally as you go along, so it doesn't feel like much of a chore like sometimes it might have in other Dark Souls games. You can easily sink hundreds of hours into this game, and if you like challenging open world action RPGs, I definitely recommend it. The next game is Hades. And so Hades is one of the best roguelike action RPG dungeon crawlers in recent years, and you'll play as the son of Hades as you try and escape the underworld. And so the game features very fast-paced combat where you'll be able to choose from a variety of weapons at the start of each run, and then you'll try and clear different dungeons as you progress your way out of the underworld. And so along the way, after you clear each room from enemies, you'll be given different branching path choices, each with their own unique power-up for your characters. And so these will range in a wide variety of different options that act as different blessings from the gods. And this is another cool feature as well, where you'll have little conversations with the different gods as you explore, and they actually remember things that happened or conversations that you've had throughout subsequent runs in the game. On top of that, unlike some roguelike games where you'll have kind of a random boss at the end of each area, that certainly still happens, but there is several different varieties of bosses, making each run through feel different, and it keeps staying engaging, even if you're replaying many of the same areas again and again. The story is definitely very engaging because of that. It's fun to meet all the different gods as you explore, and it's cool testing out all the different combinations of abilities for your character. And even after you beat the game for the first time, it unlocks even more features and additional challenges, adding to the replay value. If you haven't picked up Hades yet, I definitely recommend it. The next game is Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Now this game is an action RPG that is a prequel to the events that happen in Final Fantasy VII. And so it's a remake and slash remaster of the original PSP title, and it still has all of the addicting gameplay elements just with enhanced graphics and excellent controls. And so the story is very engaging as it unravels the mysteries and events leading up to the first Final Fantasy VII game, and you'll play as Zack Fair, an up-and-coming soldier in the Shinra army, as he tries to become a first-class soldier during the events of the war with Wutai. As I mentioned, the game focuses more around action combat, and so you'll play singularly as Zack throughout the entire game, but you'll have a wide variety of abilities that you can unlock through this game's unique materia system. And so you'll be able to equip different materia throughout the game, which will unlock new abilities for your character, unleash additional spells, and some of them are more support or buff-based spells that might increase your HP, MP, and more. On top of that, it has a really robust materia fusion system, and so you'll be able to craft new materia by combining existing materia you already have to make it more powerful, to unlock and unleash new materia forms, and to mix and match materia buffs, giving you lots of ways to improve your character's stats. On top of that, it has a really cool DMW system, which is kind of like a slot machine mechanic, and throughout battle this will activate, allowing you to unleash limit break type abilities, but also unleash different summons you'll acquire throughout the game. If you enjoy the Final Fantasy series and are looking for one of the best action RPGs, I would definitely recommend checking this one out as well. The next game is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. And this game takes the classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles beat 'em up formula from games past and brings that back and upgrades it for modern systems. And so there's several different modes that you can play through. There's a story mode, for example, that adds some RPG elements to the series, where as you defeat enemies, you'll be able to level up your characters and then enhance things like learning new abilities and upgrading their health bar and more. On top of that, you can play as several different characters from the Ninja Turtles series. You have the Foundation Ninja Turtles, obviously, but then you can also play as characters like Splinter, April O'Neil, and much more. On top of that, there's a more challenging arcade mode that feels more like the classic arcade versions of Ninja Turtles. You can also play online co-op or local co-op, really bringing back that classic arcade experience. There's tons of secrets to uncover as you explore, unlockable characters, new modes, and much more. This is definitely one of the best beat 'em ups in recent years, and I highly recommend it. The next game is CrossCode. And so CrossCode is an extremely engaging action RPG that takes place sort of like a game within a game. And so you'll be playing as a young girl that has lost her memories, and this happened within an MMORPG, so you need to return to that world and continue to play through the game in hopes of restoring her memories. And so you're playing a game within a game, but the game that you're playing as the player is more of an action RPG adventure game. And so it feels like an action RPG mixed with some classic dungeon crawling and puzzle elements, similar to early titles from the Legend of Zelda series. And so it has a very engaging story. As you meet friends playing throughout the game, you'll not only have that real world storyline taking place where you're trying to restore your memories, you'll also be playing through the storyline of this online MMORPG. Both are very engaging and a lot of fun. Now I will say the puzzles can be very challenging in this game, so you might want to have a guide handy as you play through. But the gameplay is incredibly fun, and as you progress, you'll be able to level up your character and unlock a large skill tree. It's definitely one of the best RPGs in recent years, and I highly recommend it. The next game is Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. Now this game is an intense action RPG set in the world of the original Final Fantasy game. And this time around, you'll actually play as Jack and his fellow heroes as they try and restore the crystals and stop the evil fiends and chaos from destroying the world. And so it's a really cool concept where you get to relive the events that happened in the first Final Fantasy game. And so it's really cool to get to relive these areas and experience those elements of the storyline in modern day graphics with modern day gameplay. And they really brought this classic 8-bit world to life throughout this game. And the gameplay is more of an action RPG that again feels more like the classic Dark Souls series mixed with Final Fantasy. And so you'll definitely have that challenging action combat where you'll need to dodge enemy attacks, parry them, and more if you hope to survive. But it also combines that with the classic Final Fantasy job classes. So you'll be able to mix and match your character's abilities as you play through different jobs, unlocking skill trees for jobs and unlocking more advanced jobs as you progress through the game. And so each one of these jobs will have different weapons that you can equip, different armor types, abilities that you can unlock, and more. And so you really will build out your custom character as you progress through the game. Another one of my favorite parts is the ending of the story and how that ties into the original Final Fantasy game. It's definitely worth playing through all the way, especially if you've been a longtime Final Fantasy fan. It's a great action RPG and I definitely recommend it. The final game on today's list is the Resident Evil 4 Remake. And so this game is a third-person shooter meets survival horror game with some light RPG elements. And you'll play as Leon Kennedy as he goes on a quest to save the president's kidnapped daughter Ashley. And so the game features amazing graphics, a compelling story, and intense horror combat. And you'll start off by visiting a remote village looking for clues of where Ashley might have been taken. And it really expands into many terrifying areas like a castle, a fortified island, and more. And this time around, they've really corrected some of the annoying aspects of the original game, like how useless Ashley was in the first version. added some new challenging elements like durability to some of your weapons like your knives and more. As I mentioned, it does have some light RPG mechanics as well, making the game even more addicting, where you'll be able to find new weapons as you explore, but also find different treasure and money as you defeat enemies, and you can use that to buy upgrades for your case, allowing you to hold more items, upgrades for your weapons. You can also purchase healing items and much more. This is definitely one of the best Resident Evil games in the series, and if you haven't played the Resident Evil 4 Remake yet, I definitely recommend picking it up. But again, that wraps up our video of this latest GameStop sale and 10 great GameStop deals worth buying. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button as it really helps out the channel. And if you're going to pick up any of these games or have played them before, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you wanted to pick up any of these games, there'll be links in the description below as well. And if you'd like to help support the channel, pick out content and more, consider becoming a patron of ours over at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And if you like videos like this on video games, board games, and everything nerdy, check out one of our other videos here. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out, and so you can take advantage of any future sale videos we put out so you don't miss out on any of these great deals. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.